Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are going to see what is use effect hook in React. What is its purpose and how we have to use it. What is the dependency array in the use effect hook and when we should use it. So all this we are going to discuss today. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So here I have created one sample application where we are going to test how the use effect hook works. So for that, first of all, what I will do here, I'll add just one button. I'll say it increment counter. And here I'm going to take one use state hook. So what I'll do here, I'll take counter and I'll take a set counter method from the use state hook. The use state hook also comes from the React and use effect hook will also come from the React library itself. So I'm going to pass here the initial value as 0. Now what I'm going to do here, I will say on click of this, just increment the counter. Okay. Now I'll just say a PR tag and then I'll just show the counter value. But before that, I'll also add one more button. I'll say here decrement counter. I'll say on click and counter plus one. Okay. So here actually not counter actually we need, but let's check this first of all and let's see how this works. Okay. So we are going to come over here in the browser and I'll say increment counter and this will just increment the count. Okay. Now, so the first scenario which we are going to discuss is the use effect except two parameters. First is the function which is going to be executed whenever you want and whatever the side effects which you want to run on that method. So that we can consider over here. We can write under this arrow function. Let's say I've added here arrow function. I can write all the things inside of this function, and then there is a dependency array that we are going to discuss later on. So here, what happens if I don't pass the dependency array over here? It is always going to render whatever is, or it always going to execute whatever I'm going to write into that. So let's say I'm just saying console.log, and I'm going to say use effect hook is called. If you just go here in the browser and open the developer tools in the console, if you just check here, if it is getting printed here at as logged over here as use effect hook is called. Even if I click okay, sorry, what it is saying, like here it is going to run execute this statement every time whenever a component is rendered. So it is whenever I'm clicking on this, it's re-rendering the is rendering the executing the code itself from the use effect hook. Now, let's say I'm going to pass over here a dependency array, which is an empty array. Now, what will happen over here? It is going to execute this statement only once. So my log statement will only run only once. Let's see now. Let me just refresh this now. And if you can see over here, use effect hook is called is it returned. Now, if even if I click now on the button, the counter is incremented, but the statement is not again executed itself. So this is how we execute the use effect hook only once. Now we are going to see how the third scenario, that is when we pass the dependency value, how that works. So let's say I'm going to take here one more constant. Okay, here I'll say counter 2 and set counter 2. And here I'll say use state, here I'll say again 0, and I'll just add one more button. For the previous button, I'll say increment counter 1, or let's say this is increment counter only. Now I'm going to add one more via break tag, and then I'll say increment counter 2 over here. Then here I need to just say 2 set counter 2 method I need to call and counter 2. Here I'll again add a break tag, and then I'll say counter 2. Now we'll see how this works. Now if you see increment counter 2 is incremented below counter and increment counter is increment the above value. Okay. Now what we want here, whenever we click on the counter 2 button, whenever this value is changed, we want to call the use effect hook. So what we are gonna do, we need to just pass the counter 2 over here. So whenever the value of counter 2 will be changed, this use effect hook will be called, and whatever the code we have written inside of it will be get executed. So let's see now how this works. Let's refresh this. Use effect hook is called. Okay, now I'm clicking on the increment counter first button. It's not calling anything. It's not printing anything. Now as soon as I click on the increment counter 2, the log is printed over here. The code is executed. So that's how we have seen how the use effect hook can be called in multiple ways. The first way is we want to execute the code on every render. So if we want to execute the code of use effect on every render, then we don't pass the dependency array itself. The second scenario is when we want to execute the use effect hook code only once when the first render will happen. So in that case, we have to pass the empty dependency array to the use effect hook. And the third scenario is whenever we the first load and also whenever the dependency array value is changed. Okay, then and at that time we want to execute the code, then we can pass the dependent value inside the dependency array. So as soon as the code is the value is changed, the use effect hook will be get called again. So we can execute the things. We can execute the side effects on the component in the functional components. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you. If you like my video, please share this video, like this video, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.